now heard from Caitlin Clark, and she said everything perfectly. I'm going to get into all of her comments. I think it's only fair to play them in the entirety, so this might be a little bit on the longer side. I may also repeat myself a little bit because, to be quite frank, Caitlin Clark said a lot of what I've been saying.
Few days. Now that she has addressed the matter, this will be my final take on this whole saga. Let us look at her physical health, which is the priority. Brian Hansen has provided the
video from practice about Caitlin Clark's health status. I take this all as good news, but I appreciated being forthcoming.
Feeling a lot better, excited to get back into practice today, and then feeling really positive about getting back into one of the games at the back-to-back. Obviously difficult coming back in a back-to-back, so we'll have to be cautious of that, but I feel a lot better, and like I said, excited to get back into practice. And this week has been very helpful for my overall health. So other than that, if you guys have any questions, I know I kind of just ranted for a while, but feeling a lot.
That sounds very sensible. Again, I appreciate how direct she was. There's no confusion here. She confirms she is unavailable for Sunday's matchup with the Aces, but expects to return next week. Regarding those back-to-backs, she pointed out that on Wednesday they'll be in Los.
Thursday, they're in Phoenix, but that gives her 2 full weeks off. Let's just say she were to come back on Wednesday of next week, that would be 2 full weeks off. And, you know, when you're hearing Caitlin Clark talk about this.
So she doesn't aggravate the injury and has the time to heal properly. That's good news. Additionally, there's news on the performance front, as she was honored as Player of the Month alongside Asia Wilson. It highlights the high caliber of basketball Caitlin has been playing. You can't help but be excited to see her back at full strength and, hopefully, receiving proper officiating. So, let's dig into her specific comments on all these topics.
Caitlin called out the officiating. She called out the media. She did it extremely politely, especially with the officiating. You know, this is a lengthy statement from her, so I'm going to play it, and I'll react to some of it in real time.
Just probably start. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, and obviously I haven't been available for like a week or so. So, first of all, I know what you guys are going to ask, and I did think it was a flagrant foul. And our reffing just needs to be better. And
officiating standards need to rise. I applaud her for being blunt and calling out the situation exactly as it occurred.
You know, it's tough. Obviously, the refs are in a really difficult spot. You know, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, in my opinion, is to make calls. All you do is get yelled at the whole time by everybody. You're never winning. So I think for us, like,
that's some nice empathy for the refs, and obviously Caitlin is guilty of yelling at the refs as well.
We just got to do better protecting our players in that regard. I don't really think that it was up for debate. Obviously, it wasn't called in real time.
It wasn't up for debate. Thank you.
You can go back and watch the clip. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of been a discussion for like 3 years now, and I think we.
And you know, like that's important to note. Like, anybody who saw that had the same reaction. We don't have to like play, you know, this group psyop that was a normal play and didn't deserve the judgment that was rendered.
We need to do a better job protecting the people in this league, and you know, obviously I've been involved in a few of those plays, but there's been plenty of others across the league that, you know, haven't got called. You know, go back and.
Is that Caitlin finds herself in these situations too often. But I also mentioned Alyssa Thomas, whose record proves this is a wider trend impacting more than just Caitlin. These 2 points are both valid and intersect in significant ways.
But that over-the-top physicality that is also not called correctly in the moment, those two things matter, and when they collide, they allow things to spiral a bit.
Post-game or whatever it is, teams clips, nothing really changes. So I think overall the league just has to do better, and we have to invest in those areas. The technology can get better. We can treat the referees a little bit better, pay them like they're full-time employees. I think things like that. And, you know, I think a lot has obviously come after that. And as I've stood up here and said before, like the harassment, the hate, None of that is okay. That goes for the opposing team we play. That goes for my teammates. That goes for my coaches.
Sugarcoat her message. She laid it out plainly. It is clearly wrong. It is equally unacceptable when the Fever are the targets. And she rightfully stood up for the coaches. And frankly, while it's fine to critique Stephanie White, some of the reactions have been completely uncalled for.
You know, there should never be question of character. Like, I've always stood up here and said that, and that's truly what I believe. That's how I was raised. So, you know, none of that is okay, and I don't want anybody to ever experience that. And, you know, I think it can be really frustrating to me at times, and I think it's difficult. I think a lot of people sometimes think I'm a robot. I'm not a robot. I have emotions. I have feelings.
I wonder if anyone actually cares about me as an individual, rather than just the persona they've built up. It's as if people forget there's a human being and a professional athlete beneath the media headlines. Dealing with that environment is tough, especially at 24, as I try to find my way through it all. I've been living in this spotlight for 4 years now, and I wouldn't trade this life for anything.
You know, it probably affects me a little bit more than I do put on, and, you know, I would never change any of that for the world, but I think it's important that people do remember that part of it too. So, you know, at the same time, it's really interesting to me because, you know, even I turned the TV on Sunday, and that game was on Wednesday, and that's all people are still talking about. And I feel like that's just a real disservice to our league.
And look, I'm not exempt from this. I've spent plenty of time discussing it myself, so I won't act otherwise. I assume she is referring to the segment regarding Kennedy Carter that I dedicated a show to. My reaction at the time was simply that I was finished with the drama, but seeing that clip changed things.
But it didn't need to be said again during that broadcast when they could have changed and taken the story to the other stories on the court. Because for all of the discussion about how too much discussion is about Caitlin Clark, the people who complain about too much discussion about Caitlin Clark never stop talking about Caitlin Clark either.
I understand the need for engagement, but the constant dwelling on these narratives is excessive. When those discussions veer into territory that is just plain inappropriate, it goes too far.
And I like her standing up for herself there too. The narrative to be taken to other places where it's really not acceptable, where this has become, you know, it wound up becoming about something that it wasn't about, and everybody lost the plot.
It's unfair to my squad, but it also disrespects the other teams and athletes competing in this league. There is an incredible amount of raw talent out there, with so many phenomenal players performing at a remarkably high level. I recall, I believe it was the weekend whenever that broadcast took place, seeing them analyze the situation on air. I had no clue they'd cover it. I was simply tuned in to watch the rest of the matches as I tried to stay updated. I felt genuinely sorry for the athletes actually competing that day, and my heart also went out to my own teammates. They played on Friday, put on a dominant performance, and yet no one wanted to highlight.
You know, and again, she goes out of her way to have her teammates back. You know, I've made the case that the coach needs to have her and has needed to have her back more often, and that you know, other people throughout the league, it'd be nice if they had her back. But for her to be on the receiving end of all that and still have everybody's back, I think says a lot.
And considering there had already been, I believe, over 10 other games played, by that point, I think we all have a responsibility to steer the conversation back to what actually matters. We are capable of doing better, and I'm convinced that will contribute significantly to the growth of the game. That obviously applies to the Fever situation. But remember, you all are here in this arena every single game. The throngs of fans who show real passion, love for the sport, and respect for the opposition along with the kids.
And I've made that exact point. This has been driving me crazy about my peers in the media. Driving me crazy because I know that they've been there and I know that they've seen the 15, 20,000 people cheer and the young boys and girls ask for autographs and all that stuff. And they still have the audacity and the gall to make the headlines about internet comments or whatever. You know, I know I'm looping everything, but about what is clearly not the main story.
That holds true whether we are hosting in our home gym or traveling on the road. There are so many wonderful people who truly cherish this league and our organization, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. A group that genuinely supports me and will always have my back. I believe we must never lose focus of
The joy and the fire and the fun, like, that's why you play this game. And I think it kind of goes back to a little bit of my frustration. Like, I remember seeing a headline is like, and I don't remember who wrote this, and I try to stay away from social media as much as I can, but sometimes it can be hard. Like, I need to be aware of certain things, and obviously my team makes me aware of certain things. And it was like, the headline read like, this season has been everything but fun, and they're just full of frustration for Clark and the Fever. And I'm like, no one ever asked me that. Nobody ever asked me that. Like, that's wrong. Like, they're like, discuss my play. Discuss if I played bad. Discuss if I played good. Like, discuss our play. And
that's fine. But let's move forward from there. However, I feel that prioritizing the fun and the beautiful aspects of this sport is vital. And honestly, ignoring that does a disservice to our team and everyone involved. Let's strive for more optimism and smiles. I think the world could really benefit from that. Anyway, moving on. I'm sure everyone is curious about my physical condition.
So I played the health comment. You know, and the positivity thing, I'm going to do my best to follow that. Also, I want to make note that she did go out of her way to, you know, talk about the team and the organization and all that. So I'm always going to keep it real about what I see on the basketball court and my criticisms in that regard. But I do think it's worth everybody dialing the temperature back on that as well, too, is essentially what she's asking for there, because the Fever...
A catastrophe. We should strive to assess these situations with a bit more, what is the term, perspective. And again, I am not pointing fingers at anyone, myself included. This applies to me as well. Tony East followed up on this, asking for...
Well, you said it was hard or challenging for you to see the way people talk about it. What specifically would you say is difficult for you in that way? Is it people speaking for you, like you said with that headline? What about that is so difficult?
I think people just using my names in ways that are just inappropriate. And a lot of people, you don't know me, you don't know who I am. And I think at times, like, you know, whether you're me, whether you're LeBron, whether you're the coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, whether you're the coach of the New York Giants, like, there's going to be things that happen that aren't a reflection of you. That doesn't make that okay. I think that's the frustrating part. I think the frustrating part is
Caitlin Clark has never uttered a single malicious word about anyone. Her focus has always been on supporting others. Therefore, the manner in which she has been depicted and categorized, stripping away her humanity and disregarding the packed stadiums, ignoring the young fans, and funneling such toxic garbage toward her is unacceptable. It lacks journalistic integrity and is simply a poor way to treat a human being.
it seems like everyone wants a click, and that's really disappointing. I get it. You have a job to do. I get that. I get, but at the same.
And let me tell you, of course, people want a lot of business models are based on clicks and revenue share and all that. So I'll always be transparent with you. But there is a level of responsibility that should come along with it too. You're like, yes, you want people to read and consume what you do.
But you shouldn't have to sacrifice your professional ethics to achieve those results. It's all people seem to discuss. It's deeply frustrating. Sure, go ahead and debate whether a foul was flagrant or not, but the subsequent narrative is utterly baffling to me and remains inexcusable. Baffling is certainly the right term. Again, I never even considered that the flagrant status was a topic for debate. So, there is that. But
I like that she stood up for herself again here. Like, it shouldn't be up for debate. It wasn't up for debate. That's nuts. The things that have been said since, nuts. So I'm glad she's keeping it 100 in that regard.
It frustrates me that it takes away so much from the product that's being put on the floor. And we've done so much to grow the game over the course of the last 3 years. And it's just like
we keep undermining our own progress, which is just awful. We have worked incredibly hard. We are entering the 30th season of the WNBA, and the league is in a fantastic position. The talent level is currently at an all-time high. TV ratings are record-breaking, and arenas are consistently selling out. That applies to the entire league, not just a select few teams. We shouldn't be focused on tearing each other down or creating internal conflict. Instead, We need to keep discovering ways to empower one another and foster collective improvement simultaneously. Like I stated, my concerns regarding officiating and league management remain. We must improve. We need to improve. There's no escaping that fact. It isn't just about my own performance or the team's.
And that last part though, it would be nice if some of Caitlin Clark's peers and the media, whatever, were to treat Caitlin Clark the way she is treating everybody else.
Caitlin's remarks were spot on, and if this serves as the closing statement on the matter, then it certainly finishes by leaning into some sensible traditional wisdom.